Alright, I'm going to show you how to make one of these cute little boutique hand towels. Okay? Alright, so let's go over here to see what we've got. We've got our hand towel, our bath towel, and I cut it in half so you have two pieces. One piece here and then the other piece would be on the other side, but I'm going to use that in the video. And then I've got two pieces of fabric right sides together. So I do not see pretty side here, and I do not see pretty side here. The pretty sides would be touching. All right, and then I've cut around that, and that's my pattern piece. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this piece right here, and we're going to go over to the sewing machine. And there are little lines on your sewing machine, you know, different ones right here, 5/8 inches, the norm. But what I'm going to do is I am going to put my presser fit right on the edge. So all I see right here is a tiny bit of fabric sticking out. I'm not going to use the 5/8 inch or the 1 inch or anything like that. I'm just going to have it barely peeking out over the edge and use that as my guide, because I want to make this as big as possible. I don't want to get it too skinny. Okay, so I'm going to roll my hand wheel over here toward me so the needle goes in to the fabric. Now, just out of habit for me, I hit the reverse and go backwards a couple times. Okay, and I'm on a 1 and a stitch length of a, actually hold on, I need to set that back down. That's another good thing. 1 and a 3. Okay, so I keep that just on a kind of normal size stitch. Some people use 2.5, you can do that, but sometimes that's harder to get out if you make a mistake. Alright, so I'm just going to go around this, keeping that little edge on. Just kind of following it around. I'm going to get right here, kind of curve it around, but if I can't curve it all the way, I kind of pick it up and go all the way around it. Keep curving it and just keep turning. If you get weird where you can't turn it and it feels like you're going off the edge, just pick up your presser fit just a baby bit, not all the way up, just baby bit, and kind of slide it around. And you can stop again, pick it up and pull it around, go a couple more stitches, pick it up, slide it. You can do like that. Remember, you're in the control of your machine. Your machine is not in control of you. If you don't feel comfortable going fast and in control, then do not go fast. Alright, I go to the very edge and I hit the back stitch a couple times, and then I sew off. I roll my flywheel toward me until it's all the way up, pick up my presser fit and pull it out. Don't cut it too short. You will be re-threading it. Okay, now when I get finished, I have, okay, let's stitch all the way around. And you see there's curves. There's a curve here at the top, curve around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to clip my curves. Oops, if I can, down here where you can see it. I kind of do a little clip. Okay, what I do is I'm just clipping to that seam all the way around, pretty much from this point here all the way to this point here, just little curves. So when you turn it right side out, it will lay much flatter. And this is, you don't have to do this every time. However, it's very good practice to do it, because when you start making more elaborate things, you want those curves clipped so it will lay better. Collars, you know, things like that. So I'm turning it right side out. Now another thing I have is a little stick. These little pokey sticks that come in, looks kind of like a chopstick, but they come in stuffing. So you can take this little pointy end and you can help push it in there, and you can go around all the seams, and it kind of helps you poke those out. Okay, and then I kind of take this and I poke those out all the way down, and then you kind of get it all nice and neat. Now you're going to take this end and you're going to fold this in about a 1/2 inch here and about a 1/2 inch there. And make sure it's even, because we're going to sew these together and you don't want it to be off. So you get that even and you take it over to your iron and you flatten her out. Okay, now we're just going to leave that alone for a second. Alright, now we're going to get a 1/2 of our towel. Here's our towel. Now, this is the back side of it because I've used the other side, and I'll show you in a minute. But you can take this tag and just slice it off. Okay? But you can tell that's the back because it's folded over. So this is the front. So I'm going to take a pin and just put a pin because that's the front. And I'm going to do a gathering stitch right across the top. Okay? So how do you do gathering? Okay? So I'm going to turn my tension. This is your tension. It makes it tighter, squishes in, or regular, or too loose. Alright, so I'm going to turn this up to a 9. Okay? And I'm going to turn my stitch length. Okay, this is a straight stitch, so it's gonna make your stitch longer. So I'm gonna kick it up as high as it'll go. Okay, now I'm gonna make sure I have 2 tails here, really long, and I'm gonna tuck it between this little leg there and to the back. Then I'm gonna hear my buddy barking in the back. Now there's my pin, so I know that's the top. I'm gonna put that right there. And I'm going to go, you can go slower. On cotton fabric like this, it will gather real easy. On towels, you kind of will have to hold the top thread. And I'll show what I mean, okay? So, I go from what I've done. I started at the beginning, and I didn't backstitch, okay? And I left some tails. And I started kind of past this. Do you see that? Right past that little flat area. Then I sewed real close to the top, and I got to the end, and I'm going to roll my flywheel up, and I do not backstitch. And also pull it out and leave long tails again, because if you have to take some of the gathering out, you don't want to have it'll pull out into nothing. Alright, so here is your towel. It's slightly gathered, but it's nowhere near what that's going to be, because yours hopefully looks ironed and nice by now. So it's got to fit in there. So we take our long tails, the top thread. Now how do we know it's top? Because we put that pin in there. And we're going to get this thread. There's my thread on top. And I'm kind of going to hold it right there. I kind of just wrapped it around my finger. Now I kind of think of this thread as a curtain rod. And I'm just going to slide this on the curtain rod. Because, you know, the thread's not going to move. It's not stretchy. So you're just going to pull that down. Slide the curtain on the curtain rod. Now, I'm going to take this other one on this side and slide it, hold it kind of tight, and slide that all in on the curtain rod. Okay? Now, what I want to come up with is a piece that's going to fit in there. Okay? So now, I'm going to take our piece that's nicely ironed, and I'm going to put the corner in the corner and pin it. And I'm going to put the other corner in here and pin it. Then I'm going to put all this up underneath there. But I want it to be sure it's the same distance that I've stuffed up in here. So whatever, it doesn't need to be like a big piece right here and kind of shorter baby piece right here. It needs to be completely straight, or your towel will be like hanging weird. Okay? So it needs to be put up in there, pinned all the way across. Now, it's going to look like this. Okay, now you pinned it. Okay? Now, you can put this underneath your sewing machine and sew. I got it folded up. Hold on. Just pin that in there. So when you pin it in, you want to make sure you get the back too. So pin it through, and then you've got the back too. All right, now we're going to sew across this. Okay, once we sew across this, then we're going to go up a little bit further and sew again. Now, a problem with this is oftentimes when you're sewing on top, what if your back isn't even? What if it's a little bit higher and you haven't done it properly? Well, you can do it 2 ways. You can go ahead and sew it with the pins in it, or you can take a thread, needle and thread, and you can put it in and do a basting stitch. All this is just a big wide stitch. Then we get a little bit at the bottom of that and a bottom of this. Okay, and the bottom of this. Don't worry about the threads. Bottom of this. I'm going to flip it over and make sure I'm going to get the bottom of that. Now what I'm doing is lining it all up so I can take out the pins. It'll hold it in place. Okay, bottom of that. Bottom of that. Big stitches. Let's give an inch or so. Bottom of that. Flip it over. Bottom of that. This lines it up. It kind of pulls the towel together. And that way when you sew on the bottom, you'll make sure you've got it all lined up. And you won't be like sewing here, but then you turn it over and it's stitches way up at the top. This kind of just helps perfect it. Okay. Make sure I've got, oops, see that? There's a needle, and I need to line it up more. So I'm going to pull that needle out and get near the bottom. Alright, so once you've done this, if you've done a good job with your basting, you can actually take your pins out so they will be out of your way. Now, I've got this bright hot pink thread, and I use a bright color in my basting on purpose. That way you can see what you're doing. Alright. And then you can see it to take it out. I mean, like if you're using hot pink, I mean, use something ugly like, you know, a dark emerald green, or if you're using white, use, you know, purple or something. Because that way you won't have to worry about where's my basting stitch when it's, so now it's like sewn. Alright, so we're going to take this over here, and I'm going to sew across the bottom. Now, don't forget to turn your tension back to a 4 and your stitch back to a 2.5 or a 3. And I'm just going to sew across it with the hot pink since I've got it in there. Okay, now I've got my thread still hanging on my, I'll just cut that off. Okay, so I'm going to sew close to the bottom. And I will back stitch at the beginning and the end. Roll up my flywheel. Number on my flywheel. Okay, so there's that. And I've sewn across it. Okay. And there, whoops, I'm dropping the camera. There's our towel. Okay, now the next step will be to fold this over towards you. Okay. And we're going to mark where our button is. About a 1/2 inch up. We're going to mark where our button is. And we'll make a buttonhole here. First buttonhole, always. Second, you're going to mark, once you have that buttonhole finished, you're going to mark at the end of that button. Stick a little marky pin, a sewing pin through there, and mark where you want the button. And you always want it near the bottom, because if it's here, it'll kind of pull up through the buttonhole, and it'll pull up to like there. So always mark it in the bottom of the buttonhole, and then put your button on. And you can do it by hand or by machine. And I have 2 other videos to show you how to do the buttonholes and the buttons. But as far as that's done, see if I can. Here is your towel. It's very cute. You can hang it up in the bathroom. If you can want to, you can use the white ones for the for kitchen towels too, or you can do holiday ones too. All right, hope that helps.